Unless you really have that like live action experience, practicing, like repping a move over and over and over again will get you so far. But I think if you're not like getting that live application like me and you do every day, rolling and, you know, sparring and doing all these things, I really don't know if you're going to be ready for that, like that unexpected moment in the street.
Joe Rogan was saying, yeah, if your kid's a bully, enroll them into martial arts.
Yes.
Because there's just something that's so like checking the ego on it, right? It's kind of like that, like we said, that internal state of just, like, listen, kid, you can't go around bullying people because there's that guy that can bully you.
Exactly. Right? I think it just comes with a sense of, like we said, confidence in knowing that like you're doing something good for yourself, you're getting stronger, you're in women's self-defense, you're learning how to like handle other people. Like there's definitely power in that, you know? Like we have the women's class so that women feel comfortable getting through those doors out of their comfort zone. But I made it clear to them too, at the end of the day, it's not women that's going to be attacking us. 95% of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be a man.
All right, Shino, I've had the privilege now of talking to three, or you're the third, but three badass women that I train with in Jiu-Jitsu, which is Nora, Emily, and you. That's quite a trifecta right there.
Oh, thank you.
But, so you run the women's self-defense class, the newly self-defense class on Saturday, which I think is great.
Thank you.
Because, I really do think it empowers women. But what I want to talk to you about when we were talking to this podcast, and we'll just get right into it, is that like in some women's self-defense class, before we get into it, I'll kind of riff on an experience I had training a girl. So I used to be a Muay Thai coach, and I was training this girl, right? And it was practical self-defense. She wanted to learn self-defense. And she was about, let's say, like 90 pounds, and she was doing really good. Like she felt really good about herself. That's why I got into the game, in the coaching game, to make people feel good. But she'd give me these comments saying like, yeah, you know, if like a guy ever messes with me, I could, and she was serious about this, okay? She wasn't just like ripping off and just joking around. She was saying, yeah, if a guy like ever messed around with me, somewhere along these lines, you know, I'd like mess him up. And I'm like, and that kind of gave me like a little something to think about, because like in my head, this girl was like really fragile. She, like I said, she weighed about 90 pounds. And I was like, nah, I don't think so. Because just because you learn a technique and you say you've trained with like a real martial artist for months, there's still like strength involved. There's still like, you know, just like grabbing someone in real life, the real life aspects, the practicalities of it. So I guess where I was getting at, I was like, I didn't want to give her a false sense of what would really happen, right? Because like me and you, we go to gyms and we train like pretty hard pretty much every day. And we get as close to what it would feel like, right? Into like a real predicament. And that's what I told her very nicely. I was like, you know, I was like, dude, you're getting really good and I'm glad you feel good. But I had to tell her, I was like, I don't know, like strength is, you know, in like the most calmest way. I was like, yes, strength does matter. And what do you think about like when you teach a self-defense course, how would you like kind of navigate through that? Because I know it's about like, you know, empowering women, which I think is very, very important. But in the like a real life practical situation, since you are like a real fighter too.
Yeah. Just a disclaimer. I've literally just started, you know, teaching the women's self-defense course, and I've never really done anything like it before. So I'm also still kind of new to it, you know, because for me, I'm basically just teaching them jiu-jitsu, right?
By the way, since Shino said that, for people that are watching, she is a pro fighter. Like she means it's her first time teaching us self-defense. It's not like it's her first time like doing this. Okay.
No, and I've taught classes before. You know, I've been doing this a long time, so I've taught jiu-jitsu classes and stuff before. But women's self-defense self-defense or a women specific class is kind of my first time dabbling in that. And so I'm learning along the way, seeing what works best with everybody. And no, I definitely noticed that a big thing with women is they're scared to be aggressive at first. And I guess, so with the girl that you taught, were you only holding pads for her? Like, did she ever spar?
No. That's
the thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing about like self-defense in general for anybody, right? Is unless you really have that like live action experience, practicing, like repping a move over and over and over again will get you so far. But I think if you're not like getting that live application like me and you do every day, rolling and, you know, sparring and doing all these things, I really don't know if you're going to be ready for that, like that unexpected moment in the streets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely, I try to go into it. Like I always tell the ladies at, on Saturdays, don't be scared to be aggressive with each other. And we were actually doing some Toreando passes and to knee on belly. And a lot of the women were like falling over because they couldn't hold themselves up in knee on belly. And I was like, well, put your weight down on her. And they were all like, but I don't want to. And I had to tell them, think about it like this. A guy on the street attacking you doesn't care how much weight he's putting on you. So even if you feel bad doing it to her, she needs to feel it too. You know, so it's not just about you learning how to do a Toreando pass. It's also about her feeling what it's like to have that weight on her.
Yeah.
So it's kind of definitely like just opening their eyes to, it's much more than learning how to do a move. It's also about feeling what it's like in a controlled environment, and so that you're not surprised by it later. I mean, you're obviously always going to be surprised by like a random attack, but you know, like at least now you're like, oh, I felt this before.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a really great point. Number one, two things to that. Yeah, you're right. Like when you asked me, like, has she sparred before? Yeah, it's a different domain, right?
Yeah.
Like compared to hitting pads, there's a big difference to that, which connects to my next point. It's kind of like, yes, you have to feel what it's really like, because that's a skill within itself.
Yeah.
To like get punched in the face.
Yeah.
With boxing gloves, you know, practicality.
For sure.
And that's probably like I said, the closest that you'll get to like getting hit in the face with boxing gloves if you're training for it. The other thing too is that, it's, you know, personally, I had this false sense when I was personally training. I was hitting the bag all good. It looked good on video. And then all of a sudden, I sparred my MMA coach's son. He was 16 for the first time, and I just got fucked up. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, damn.
So humbling, right?
I'm so embarrassed. Yeah. And, you know, so meaning that's just not just for women, right? It's just like a practical kind of like, hey, man, you got to get out into the field.
And that's why I say in general, for everybody, anybody who's learning how to protect themselves and everything. I mean, you know, it's funny because I get asked a lot by men that don't train, actually. Like, are you really that confident in yourself? And if like someone my size were to attack you? And I was like, yeah, I'm confident in myself. And they'd be like, but I'm just so much bigger than you. And my answer is just like, yeah, but and actually this made me think about it, because actually Nick Days. Yes, that's how you say it.
Shout out.
Nick, yes. Nick Days said it on his podcast. I can't remember who, but I did watch this episode, and he said like, well, if I can do the things I do to a trained person, imagine what I could do to an untrained person. And I think about that all the time for myself. Like, yeah, I'm a small girl, but the things I can do to a purple belt, to a blue belt, like, I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
And of course there's like, if someone is on top of me, it's going to be harder. Or if someone is, you know, a big man is just on top of me. It's definitely going to be harder, but I definitely don't think that I'm like going to be a lost puppy, you know?
Right. You know, there's another thing to that. And it reminds me of the Jerry Shapiro podcast that I was on, because he was telling me that, you know, when people would meet him, relating to what you just said, when people would meet him, it's kind of like, oh, who's this like smaller guy and stuff like that. But fucking hell, like if you went with him, oh, dude, it's like, I couldn't even explain it. Like if you went with him, you'd get totally ripped apart.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, right? Because like say what you just said, it's kind of like, oh, are you really that confident with yourself? Yeah, untrained people just have no idea.
They have no idea.
Crazy.
And that goes with, a lot of them probably have never been punched in the face before. So if someone tries to grab me and I just whack, punch them, they're going to be like, whoa,
Yeah,
you know,
they
like,
go into a freeze.
yeah, like a
freeze
shock,
mode.
right? Actually, I did this thing. So I did this tactical training for the first time a couple Sundays ago, and we were doing like gun disarming and knife, training and stuff, just learning some, scenarios. And we did a car scenario, and our trainer said, okay, so the passenger is going to be your attacker. You're going to be in the driver's seat, and I'm not going to give you any hints or any like tips on what to do. I just want to see your reaction. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm like pretending to drive, and then he goes, okay, action. And I wait for the knife to come up, because obviously, usually I wouldn't know when the knife is coming up. And my passenger attacks me with the knife, and I like grab it and I just go, whop, whop, and I just start punching him, and he's like, whoa. And of course he had headgear on, and it was all safe and everything.
But you were legit punching him.
I wasn't punching him like hard, because I know that like, but yes, I was like actually, like we were like training it, right? But he didn't know that what I was going to do.
Kind of like sparring.
Yeah, kind of like sparring. So he didn't know what I was going to do. So I just went whop, whop. And then he was like, whoa. And then had to like kind of adjust his way of attacking me. And then like we were probably in there for a good like 2 minutes, just like
squabbling.
Yeah, squabbling. And then they were like, the trainer was like, oh, okay, yeah. She did pretty good. Of course, there were mistakes I made. Sometimes I would accidentally grab the blade part, and stuff. So that's what we're learning. Right. But I was like, it kind of gave me confidence even then, just being like, okay, cool. Like
you could hold your own.
like, and this is, the trainer is kind of used to that stuff, right? He's used to getting hit and stuff. Imagine a regular person just getting punched by a girl over and over and over again, and like, it gave me confidence for sure. And like,
yeah. And not just that initial punch. It's like if like you'd think initial punch from a girl would be like a fluke, right? It'd be like, all right, whatever. Yeah. And then, like I said, they'll try to like grab you and stuff like that. But then when you get into the mix of things and the girl's like actually trained, right? Like say like you, it's like, oh shit, now they're just getting tortured because they have nowhere to go. Of course, depending on the situation. But it's just kind of like they're in it now.
For sure. Well, and then it's just like, even if it's a girl that's untrained, nobody likes to get hit in the face, especially if you've never gotten hit before, or vice versa. Like I'm teaching these girls right now how to do an ankle sweep. And a lot of people, like a lot of men, don't know what it's like to fall on their back, right?
Yeah,
so like they're just like falling on their back, and then they're like scrambling to get up, and the girls by then can just run, and they're good, they're safe. Like I think it's just stuff like that. Like you got to understand that other people also don't know what it's like to be in those situations. So if you can like be the person to protect yourself first, and like be ahead of the game with, oh, he's attacking me, but I'm already prepared, I'm going to do this. And then he like fumbles and now you're out, then great,
Funny what training does to you, right? Like if you've been training for, like say just even a good solid 3-6 months or something like that, which I think is like, should be the bare minimum, like every day, if you want to really get somewhere and get consistent with it. It's funny what it does in just your internal state and how you move around. So a quick thing that reminded me, I was listening to this podcast, of course, and people actually judge people before the verbal communication aspect. So,
I've heard that.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Because like, it's fucking true.
Yeah.
When you walk into a room, people already have this notion about you, like, well, so like they're like either sizing you up, or you're like, oh, dude, that's not something
guilty of it.
Guilty of it. I mean, we're humans. Yeah. It's evolutionary, but yeah, we all do it, and it's the most like I guess you could say rational part of communication, like more than verbal. Like I'm judging honestly. I'm not in a bad way, but I'm sizing you up, even if you're a girl, guy, whatever.
Right.
Even before we have this conversation, it's kind of like, you've heard the cliche of like, yeah, she's kind of a bitch, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I can fuck that guy up before you even talk with the guy, and then the guy's like the nicest guy in the world.
Or have you heard like the girls being like, when I first met you, I thought you were a bitch.
Exactly. You just have that resting bitch face. It's like, okay. It's like, all right. But that just proves like we are that. We judge people by just first impressions when they walk in. So where I was going with that was like, it's funny how if you train for a good solid 3-6 months and then you start getting confident in your internal state, what that actually does, like when you're just walking around and
oh my
just
gosh,
like I feel it. Like it's so interesting.
I'm huge on that too. Even with my regular personal training clients, I have a couple women that I train just in lifting, like personal training, and they've never worked out before. And just their demeanor is so different from when I first met them. Like their chest is high, they're like, they even tell me like, I feel like I'm just able to tell people no better, easier, and I think it just comes with a sense of, like we said, confidence in knowing that like you're doing something good for yourself. You're getting stronger. You're in women's self-defense. You're learning how to like handle other people. Like there's definitely power in that, and
right. Exactly. And it's such a big thing in some sort of way. If like a guy, say women's self-defense, if a guy's thinking about getting in conflict and you just have that confidence where, like you said, you're postured up and you're just kind of like, you know what I mean? Yeah. You just have this vibe about you. It's like the way you look too, like it's not a threat kind of thing. It's just kind of like, there's just something about that person that they know how to handle themselves. Yeah. And I think that's probably the main point of that woman's self-defense, right? Besides actually defending yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about how you feel to be able to avoid that in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. I say that all the time. There's definitely, like I told them on the first class, I said, we're learning this in hopes of never having to use it, but it's just like insurance. We pay for it, hoping that we never have to use it, right? But but having it in your back pocket, you just feel like insurance, like knowing that you have insurance, you kind of just, there's a sense of comfort there, and that's why people still drive crazy. You know what I mean? Like, obviously different, but I think there's definitely a sense of peace in a sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Knowing that you have something. And like I said earlier, it's not going to guarantee that you're going to completely get out of a really bad situation. We never know that. I don't even know if I'm ever going to get out of, if God forbid something were to happen. Like, I don't know if I'm going to come out alive.
I mean, we're not delusional.
Yeah, we're not delusional, but I can tell you that I'm going to buy myself time and I'm going to make that a very hard process for them, and me and my friend Destiny actually talked about how we would make it such a hard time that we want to make it such a hard time that it almost seems like not even worth it to the attacker. Like, dude, this is just too much work. Like, no, I don't even buy,
Yeah, for sure. That reminds me of a Tim Kennedy quote, just be hard to kill.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's just so much to that. It's just, like you said, there's no guarantee that you'll make it out. I mean, we're not delusional. People have knives, people have guns. We're not going off there starting shit because we know, martial arts or anything. But it's just really, really great to know. Like I said, it's empowering. But I think what comes with that, even with people that just started training, you kind of get the sense too that you don't have to prove yourself to anything. That's why, like, when I get kids, or when, I'm sure when you and Vince, do your thing, it's kind of like, I'm gonna definitely enroll them to martial arts because, like Joe Rogan was saying, if your kid's a bully, enroll them into martial arts.
Yes,
because there's just something that's so, like, checking the ego on it, right? It's kind of like that, like we said, that internal state of just, like, listen, kid, you can't go around bullying people because there's that guy that can bully you.
Exactly. Right? Well, I mean, I'm sure you, like, we every day we're getting humbled on the mats. Sure. Sometimes we have great days, sometimes we have terrible days, but I feel like those terrible days are like that reminder of, like, okay, I'm not invincible and I have to keep training.
Bingo.
Yeah. Like, and that's why I said earlier too, before the podcast, like, I don't want these women to think that after one class that they're completely good. Like, okay, cool. I know how to do this if this were to happen. Because the thing is, every scenario is different, you know, and like, we don't know what's like, we learn these things because we don't know what's going to happen. And even me, who's trained 20 plus years, I don't know how things are going to go on the streets if something were to happen. So after a day or a couple weeks of training, you're not going to know still, you know, you got to keep training and keep doing it and make sure you're mastering it. And it's not that you have to then go compete and become a competitor and, you know, try and be a jiu-jitsu world champ or a UFC fighter. It's nothing like that, but it's definitely even just for yourself, just, you know, it's great exercise too. I think
a lot of it, what we talked about earlier is that it's just about getting them through the door even.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of like, it is a male dominant sport, right? Like you only have a few girls getting into there. And again, it's not even just the girls. Like if you have a regular guy that's untrained, then he sees all these fucking like guys with cauliflower ears and fucking big ass dudes.
It's intimidating.
Yeah, but they're the nicest guys in the world, right? Because they're so disciplined and they take it all out in the gym.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, all right, man. And after I train, I'm not thinking about fighting, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure for the pro fighters,
for sure,
they got to do that. But I'm like, dude, I want to go home and eat.
And that's another thing with the women's self-defense class. We have the women's self-defense class or the women's class. I love calling it the self-defense class, but I also don't want it to just be solely about self-defense. I want it to be about jiu-jitsu as well, because I think that they go hand in hand. And I think jiu-jitsu is one of the best forms of self-defense, you know? So I don't want to just like bluntly say it's like a self-defense class. However, like we have the women's class so that women feel comfortable getting through those doors out of their comfort zone. But I made it clear to them too, at the end of the day, it's not women that's going to be attacking us. 95% of the time, 99% of the time, it's going to be a man. And I completely understand, you know, jiu-jitsu being a little uncomfortable. It's a very like intimate sport and we're very close to each other. However, at the end of what do you think the attacker is going to do when they attack? They're not going to attack you from out here, you know, like they're going to be, they're going to be.
Explain to people like what we were just talking about what a guy's going to do first.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they're going to try and grab you. They're going to try and like,
right?
Yeah. They're going to try and maybe even sit on you. Like actually like,
put their weight on you.
Yeah. Put their weight on you a lot of times to get like kind of vulgar, but in like rape scenarios,
they're probably like, the most likely.
They're getting into your guard. That's like the guard position is a position that they're going to get you into. And if someone's trying to be in my guard, dude, it's a bad day for you. That's what, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's because I've been training for so long. And I think, and with men, so I'm not afraid of that male contact, you know? I think that's why it's important for young women to do it too. Like young girls, teenagers, little girls, because I feel like being afraid of that male contact is also going to get you nowhere, you know, if you get.
Yep. That's why I love doing these podcasts, man, because you just like hit it. Like it's so different. That's a great distinguishing point between training with men too, because it's completely different when you train with women, right?
And you're comfortable. We're like chatting. We're working together. No, for sure. But yeah, we're comfortable. We're training together. That was good. Good job, girl. You know, like that's how we train, you know, but with a man, like, and again, like I said, I totally understand how it is uncomfortable. You know, again, you're sitting in someone's guard, you know, and that's a very like intimate position, or you're someone's mounting you. And that's a very intimate, like I get it.
People, right?
Yeah. But if you're not comfortable with that in a controlled, safe environment, then out on the street where a man is going to be right there in your face, like on top of you, whatever, you're really going to be lost on what to do, you know? And I think that that's really important, especially with, of course, older women as well, like, because it's just inevitable. But I think especially with younger women, like teens and the young girls, I think it's important to let them know that, hey, it's okay that you're doing the sport with boys because you want to try and beat the boy, you know, like you're stronger than him. You can be stronger than him. And if you're not stronger than him, then your technique is going to be better, you know, or whatever it is. I think it's just important to I think that's sorry, I'm like kind of bouncing,
No,
but
please.
I feel like, so I've been doing jiu-jitsu since I was like 6-7 years old. So super young.
Yeah.
So I have this one client and she asked me, when am I going to start being comfortable with like the touching, I guess, you know? And she's doing great with me. You know, I do privates with her. She's doing great with me and stuff. But I really didn't know how to answer that question because I've been doing it for so long. I've been doing it since I was a little girl. So for me, it's normal. It's normal to be like rolling and wrestling with boys and guys and, you know, so I actually had to pull Emily and be like, Em, can you answer this question for her? Because I'm not going to lie, I don't know. For me, it's just something that like I did and it's normal for me and I got over, or I never really had that thought.
Do you think it's how you grew up that you were just comfortable with, you know, like the environment?
Yeah,
or maybe you had brothers or something.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
is it just because they're like, I don't care? You know?
No, I mean, I was so young and it literally was just my parents putting me in a sport. Then I just had to do that sport. You know, like you see the little girls in jiu-jitsu class, in the kids class, and they're just rolling around, running around with boys.
Right.
They're not going to grow up to be like, they're not going to grow up to be like, I don't know, I don't want to go with, you know, like trust me, they're not going to care in like 5, 10, 15 years, you know, who they're rolling with as far as like gender. So I think for me, I was just so young and it was just a sport that I had to do. Whereas like when you're older, like when you're an adult woman coming into this very intimate sport, it's not just like you're playing basketball with somebody, you're touching them, you know, you're getting close with them. And I think even Emily on your podcast said, they're going to sit on your face, you know, like
those are the exact words. Sit on the face. Like.
And that's just it, you know, like, and it's unnatural for adult women to start that, you know? So I think it's just, for me, it's just been a part of my life since I was a kid that like it's normal to me, but no, that's perfect. That's a perfect like explanation. From a guy's point of view, I'd just say, you know, if you keep doing it, I think it's like homeostasis. Mm-hmm. So if you keep doing it, say every day, and it just becomes a normal part, right? Yeah,
like it's just like,
absolutely.
you're not even thinking about the guy, it's a guy anymore. Yeah. You're just kind of grabbing and then you're just kind of like so into it that you're not thinking about if this is a guy or a girl. You're just rolling.
And actually I had an, it's not an incident, but I had when I was like 16, I was in jiu-jitsu class and I was going with this older man. And it was gi class, and he had taken my lapel and like put it under my armpits to like, you know, stop my arms from coming out. But then my sports bra is exposed, right? And so he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be doing that to a lady, you know." But in my head, I'm like, it kind of feels more weird you pointing it out like that than you just doing it. Cause I didn't think about it like that, you know? So it's funny how like even men can be kind of like, you know, and I get it. Like they don't want to be creeps and Jerry's great about like pointing out and we've had some weirdos, you know? However, I was just like, dude, it's more weird that you point it out. Like, but it's funny that like men feel it too, you know? That's
a great perspective. And I'm really, really glad you brought that up because again, we were talking about before the podcast, I was reading this book, Men Behaving Badly by David Buss. He's like this he's like the godfather of evolutionary psychology. And what that book's about, long story short, is that men, pretty much what it's saying is that men have just terrible social cues. Right. So besides like the martial arts, what we're talking about, actually it goes along the lines, but it's just that, say like in a dating scenario, right? Like you got a single girl, you got a single guy. Most men don't know how to act. Yeah. Like they're too in their heads, right? They're not like natural. And that's what we were talking about when you first kind of walk in a room. Men already have the intention, okay, she's an attractive girl. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's no shame in that. You think she's attractive? Cool.
And you meet people, you know.
But what gets to like men, personally, because I'm a fucking guy and, you know, I've had this problem. Men think too much. That's the problem, is that they have an end goal, right? Yeah. And that's what really fucks them because the human brain is like very, very like defensive. It's kind of like, oh shit, I should say this, I should say that, I should say that. Whereas like if you were that confident in yourself, then you just kind of go about your business. Right. And you wouldn't even hesitate. Like you just probably be like, hey, how are you doing? My name's Chris. Okay, cool. Are you enjoying the game? All right.
Yeah.
Like women, I have so many ways to go with this, because that's the other thing too about why I think women need to take self-defense, is because they have like a really good bullshit meter compared to guys, because evolutionary wise in that book was saying that they have to learn to protect themselves from guys that like just want to like impregnate them and leave them.
Right.
So they have their senses of a heightened partner is more heightened. So it's kind of like that's why, you know, you kind of get that.
Yeah, we get the ick.
Exactly. Like that's where the word creep comes from, right? It's just kind of like, oh, he seems like a creep. Well, the guy's like, oh, you don't even know me. But that's what we were talking about, how you meet someone or you're judging already by someone, or you're judging someone before you even speak with them.
Right.
And we think it's like so wrong to judge someone, but then that's just how it works. That's just how the human brain works. So, which was like anyway, back to my point. Guys in that book was saying they just have terrible social cues, like what I just explained, right? So what you were saying, so now it relates to what you were saying. I'm sure the guy was like a teddy bear, you know what I mean?
Like nothing wrong with it. Yeah,
Good
he's just like, oh, sorry, I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I think there was like something else where I think I was like turtled up and he maybe accidentally touched my butt or something, you know, but I didn't even notice it. And he just said, oh, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't be like, dude. But I was like, dude, like, yeah, you're just making me more uncomfortable, like, because I didn't even notice that, you know? And like, I think if you have like good intentions in the gym, like me and you have never had issues, you know, I don't have issues with most of the men in the gym, you know, because we're just there to train and stuff. And we can all see that, you know, like we can all see that we're just there to train and get better. And like, I don't think I've ever really had like an experience in the gym where I was really actually uncomfortable with somebody, you know, like sometimes I'll be like, he's kind of weird, you know, but nothing like I feel threatened by it or anything like that. And I think that's just like the environment. And again, me just doing it for so long that I'm there to train and that's all I'm kind of there for. And it's just a part of my life in that sense that I don't really think about it like that. Whereas sometimes maybe other girls might, because they're still so new, like a little newer to it. They're just like, he touched me there, or it happens sometimes, you know, like
it's so normalized now. And you know, I never thought that I'd like say this, you know, but since we're talking about it, I'm very genuine about it. Like, there was a few times that's why, and I've been training for a while too, right? Like, you know, over 5 years. And as far as jits, but when I'm like, when I accidentally like smack someone's ass, quote unquote, like a girl's ass, not intentionally, but
a disclaimer, not intentionally.
But I just go about my business, but I am aware of it, right? It's kind of like, whoops.
Like,
But then, like you said, I've been doing it for so long. It's kind of like, oh, there was no intention there, so I have no reason to feel bad. But I think, you know, it just comes naturally, I think, like from talking from a guy's standpoint, like that guy, I think I kind of feel bad for him in a way because he's probably tripping out in his head.
Oh, for
he's
sure.
Like, shit.
Yeah. And the thing is, I get it. Like, I feel bad for guys too, because they could do something so minimal and to some girl, it could come off as, oh, he's a creep, you know? So I get it when guys want to be like extra careful or anything. And especially at that time, I was 16, I was underage. So he probably just didn't want to come across as like, you know, so I totally understand. And again, it's a male dominant sport. There aren't many women in the gym. So when you do roll with a woman, it's, you know, like, oh, I'm rolling with the one or two, or, I mean, luckily at Syndicate, we have so many women, but you know, in the smaller gyms, I'm rolling with the one or two girls that are here and I don't want to come off weird. They're not used to it just as much as some women aren't used to going with guys. So it definitely is like goes both ways. I think women coming into the sport a little bit older, and by older I mean like adults, you know, like in their 20s, in their 20s. Women that come into jiu-jitsu a little bit older, they're like, it's just the touching, the intimacy, the touching of the guys. Yeah, but they're probably not used to it either, you know? So we both got to just get over it. And especially if we want to get better at what we do, or whatever your purpose for jiu-jitsu is, to learn self-defense. If we want to protect ourselves in the street, we got to be comfortable with a male touch, or, you know, like if you want to get better at Jiu-Jitsu or certain moves, sometimes you got to go with the girl that's better than you, you know, like, because they move different or whatever it is, you know, so.
Exactly. I mean, I think whether you're a girl or a guy, and I know, you know, like as far, of course, it's harder for women because it is a male dominant sport, and we get it. But I think just like anything else, I think, you know, it just depends how bad you want to learn it.
I think so too.
You know, you just kind of go in there. I know there's all these things like, especially how we grew up, and you know, like all the Me Too movements and stuff like that, and guys being scared to like go up to girls now, and girls being scared, vice versa. Yeah, it's just, I think it just depends how you want to learn the self-defense, and there's no other way to kind of like theorize that unless you go into a gym.
Yeah.
And hey man, like I hope for the women out there, you go to the right gym too, because like we said, there are, like you said, there has been some incidents, right? And not just like, this goes all across the boards.
Yeah.
Humans are going to be humans, and then there's going to be some fucked up humans, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think like find your place. You know, luckily Syndicate's a great environment. I think every woman is going to feel safe there.
For sure.
But I think that if you truly want to learn how to protect yourself, you just got to stick with it. You know, it's not really like
it's like anything else, right?
Yeah, it's not a one size fits all. You got to learn that the way you do it. And shoot, like get pepper spray. I have pepper spray. I'm a trained martial artist. I'm a trained fighter, and I have pepper spray, you know? So, I just think that there's...
Can I ask you something about that?
Yeah.
This is like, now we're just like really going off top. So a long time ago, and I want to hear like really what you have to say about this. So a long time ago, right? My friend, she's a girl. This was, I think, back in high school too, which is crazy. A guy and a girl actually held her up with a knife, right? It was weird. It was in Chinatown too, here in Vegas.
Oh, wow.
And they held her up with a knife, and then she was like, get in the car, you know, getting like in the back or something like that.
Yeah.
They were like, take us to the ATM, right? And all they had was a knife. And then my friend, she's also a woman, she gave him pepper spray, like we're talking about. That's why I think it's interesting. But here's my thought on that. You know, like say you're trained, so I'm guessing you see it very subjectively, right? Like how you would use it. But if like just say just some normal girl, right, that doesn't train or anything, like were to pull it out, do you think that it'd make it worse for her? Because if that shit goes south,
if she sprays it in her eyes,
you know what I mean? It's kind of like, because it'd cause more of a threat. Now, that couple's thinking like, oh shit, we got like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is serious. Now there's no going back.
Well, yeah. Oh, first, you know, I've never been, no. And luckily I've never been in a situation where I've ever had to like use pepper spray or my skills or anything like that. However, I can see that going south for her, especially if she doesn't like have the quickest reaction, right? I feel like coordination is a big one, right? Like and I love all my women in my women's class. I love them all, but a lot of them don't have coordination. I understand. And they'll be the first to admit that. Sure. And I'll even say, I'll put them through a drill and I'll be like, it's a little bit of coordination. And they all start laughing. And I'm like, and they're laughing because they know that they kind of don't have the coordination. And it's like, you know, if you don't have coordination, you probably don't have fast reflexes. And if you don't have fast reflexes, how are you going to get that pepper spray out to, you know?
And you're probably not that athletic, to be honest with
exactly.
you, right? Like coordination is a big one.
Yeah, I have pepper spray, but I also know that I could probably kick them somewhere that is going to hurt, or like push them away or get them to the ground, pepper spray them, and then run, you know? Like, I think I'm confident in myself that I could do that, you know? But yeah, you're right. I think that like, unless there's like distance between you, if it's like a pretty close contact attack, I've just pepper spray or, you know, something like that might be a little I mean, it's better than nothing. Sure. It's definitely better than nothing, but it might,
completely get it. Yeah. It was just an interesting conversation because like I said, the one that gave her the pepper spray, she was another untrained girl, right?
Okay.
And I was just thinking like, wait, I don't know. Like the coordination, it's kind of like the topic that's why I had Emily on here too, is because she's a sports athlete, right? And when you cross train like that, you get copious amount of coordination. I
Right.
mean, you're a baseball athlete. You know,
Yeah.
you probably play basketball, football, and stuff like that. Personally, I played basketball, and then which cross trains into football. Like you just have that hand-eye coordination,
yeah.
and even in fighting, it relates.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a big one. It's kind of like, wait, even being untrained and using pepper spray. I don't know how we got here.
Yeah,
but then,
yeah, no, yeah.
Weirdly enough,
Because
it's
I even
kind of
have
like it's a fucking coordination.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. It's funny because I think that coordination and like that's like the one thing people realize they don't have, and they're just like so shocked that they don't have it. And you know how many people don't know how to jump?
Dude.
Like they just don't know how to jump or skip. Have you seen those reels where kids will be like, "Hey, Dad, skip from here to there," and the dad's like. Because yeah. Because, and it's just wild to think that like, that's something that your body should just know how to do. And it's not even that athletic and you don't know how to do it. And it's just like, or even getting up from the ground. A lot of people don't know how to get up from the ground without using their two hands or anything. Yeah. And it's like, you really got to think about even just little things like that being like, and I think that's why like personal training for me is also like a big thing in my life, strength and conditioning, because I think that it starts there, right? The functional movements and being functionally strong, just being able to get off from the ground or, you know, like get yourself off the ground or, you know, catching yourself when you fall or something like it starts there. And then the whole learning how to do jiu-jitsu and stuff, that's kind of like that extra cherry on top to buy you time. But if you can't even get up from the ground and run, how are you going to, you know, protect yourself? And
that's not to say that you like coordination will come with like jiu-jitsu. You know, because it kind of goes with the training, right?
For
like
sure.
It will go with the training. It's just a few things to that too. Like you said, even getting up. Since I come from like a basketball, football background, try throwing or try just passing a basketball to someone, see how they react to it.
Oh,
because if they're like, or, you know, just even throwing it to them, just be like, hey, and then you could just tell because
the way, You know, it's funny. I don't know if I read it or if I heard it from somebody or if it was a study, but there was something that said that no matter what sport you do, sport or exercise, like no matter what type of exercise you do, whether that's a sport, whether that's weight training, whether that's, you know, jiu-jitsu, running, whatever. If you're somebody who is athletic or who works out and exercises, you are more likely to be able to protect yourself from those random attacks because we're constantly putting our bodies through high stress fight or flight modes in jiu-jitsu, in weightlifting even, right? In basketball, when you train, you're kind of putting yourself in a fight or flight mode of training that your body actually knows what to do in that fight or flight mode. So you have, even if you don't know how to fight, if you like, say you lift weights, you have a better chance at like surviving or getting out of that situation safely than someone who doesn't exercise because they don't put their body in fight or flight. So they don't know what to do when their body gets there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting that like, it just kind of shows that exercising, not just for your health, but number one, so that you're strong and stuff, but even just mentally putting your body in those states can do so much for you. And that is so interesting to me. You know, that is so amazing to me.
Yeah, I think the word that stands out there is resilience.
Yeah.
You know, it's mental resilience and also what you were saying, physical resilience. It's kind of like you're putting your body under that stress, and like anything else, it's just repetitions, right? It's like when we're rolling, it's just kind of like, oh, we've been here before.
Or like even when you're like, when you're training and you get to that, whatever training you're doing, lifting, running, whatever, if you get to that, like, that zone of, oh my God, I can't do this anymore, but I got to keep pushing. I can't do this. Well, when someone's attacking you, you're in that fight or flight. I can't freaking do this anymore, you know? So, and then your body just kind of like, oh, I've been here before. So I can sort of figure it out, you know?
Exactly. That's why I talk about this numerous times on the podcast. I love the way that Jerry teaches his classes in Jiu-Jitsu because we'll do this thing. I've said this like a broken record, but he'll do this thing to where he'll be like, yeah, don't set out, guys. He'll say it in a joking way, but he fucking means it.
Yeah.
He's like, but it's such a good advice that I think passes people by. Like, I think people think he's just like kind of joking and all that when we do like our like 20 rounds on Fridays.
Yeah.
But when I hear that, I'm like, yeah, if the other guy's trained, forget even an unperson being trained and tries to grab you. Think about if the other guy was trained, right?
Yeah,
or if the other woman was trained or whatever. It's kind of like, well, here we are. We're in the thick of things now.
Yeah.
Like you have to, number one, outlast them, cardio.
Yes.
What was that quote? It's like exhaustion makes a coward out of all of us.
Oh,
It's a beautiful quote because it does. When you spar, like, so now, you know, going off like the jiu-jitsu topic, like you do MMA as well, you're a pro fighter. Like when those hands start going down, it's almost like if you're not conditioned to that shit, that's what it is. It's kind of like, oh, you know, it's
for sure.
You can't do anything about it.
And imagine someone who's untrained attacking you, and all you have to do is literally, and I say buy time. I've been saying buy myself time. I say buy myself time because I'm not going to get tired before they are. Right. So if I can just flail around, whatever it is, even if I can't get them off of me, if I can just like make them uncomfortable, punch them a little bit, they're going to get tired eventually. Right. And then, so I think that there's huge like significance to that, you know, like I think that it's so important to just be able to like there's a lot of people out there that can't do 1 5-minute round like we can.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
If it was a 1 5-minute round day, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going all out.
That's what I mean. I've been to, and again, I've mentioned this, I've been to like, you know, some jiu-jitsu schools. They go 3 rounds, 3-minute rounds, and that's the class.
3-minute rounds?
No joke. Like, and it's multiple. It's like,
I'm sure.
You know, the trial like classes that you kind of go around and I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like this is 3 minutes, 3 rounds, sometimes 4, maybe if you're lucky. It's like a 30-minute kind of session, and then everyone's just kind of lounging around, which I get. I'm not really knocking on it because that's their culture, but I'm really glad I ran to here because it's such a more practical way of doing it. Like now, since we're talking about like real, actual self-defense, again, talking to Jerry, I'm like, well, I think personally, this is how I approach it, even with Muay Thai, whatever, is what would I do in a fucking fight? Yeah. Like not even just a competitive MMA match. Right. What would I do in an actual fight? Yeah. Like even with jiu-jitsu. That's why, and this isn't wrong, you know, don't get me wrong. That's why like I don't train like the barabolas and stuff like that. Yeah. Because in my head, this is just my style. I'm not saying don't train barabolas. But it's kind of like, how that's how I think of how training is. Yeah. A lot of the things that we've been taught are practical. It's one of those things that frame off their arm. It's the simple things. It's not just like the submissions, right? Yeah. It's things that like, oh, if I was like in a grappling match with like a straight killer, and he had like a knife on him. Yeah. Oh, that's practical to frame off his shoulder and his arm and get that knife away. Yeah. So I could create space, push him off, and then dip the fuck out. Yeah. Right? Like that's what I really like about training jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Other than
and something about jiu-jitsu that I love too, being a small person, they call it like the little person sport, you know? And I'm like, hell yeah, we needed a sport.
Right there with you. Yeah. But talk about that. You know, that's still interesting to me. Like, you know, about like that guy saying that you're really confident. And do you get that? Do you think maybe people won't say that to you, but do you have that feeling a lot to where it's like,
no, I have had people ask me that. Like, are you really confident? Yeah. I've had people ask me that. Are you really
do you think confident? They have the right to say? I mean, in some way, it's almost like maybe they can say it in a better way. But
I think that part of them is like, well, you're just a girl, but another part of them is really curious. And I don't get offended by it because at the end of the day, like, I think that I'm fine, you know? I mean, I think that I'm fine. I don't know how things are going to go, you know, and I don't know how I'm going to react to a situation. However, I think that with my training and with like knowing I have that for my whole life, I'm confident that I would react if not the best way, like at least in a way that's going to save my life, you know? But yeah, I have people ask me that all the time. And, no, I shouldn't say all the time, but I've had people ask me that and they'll be like, yeah, they'll literally ask me, so you really think that you'll be okay if someone like my size were to attack you on the streets or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, dude. I really do.
And look, she's great idea for the people that are listening. Like, you're like, yeah, I'm fuzzy, yeah, for sure.
And the only reason I say that is because the things, and I'm not saying it in like oh, I'm the shit, or, you know, like I'm just saying it in a way of like, yes, I'm a brown belt, so I should be able to pretty much roll the way I want to with like blues and whites, you know, purple, it starts getting hard, you know? But like blues and whites, I should be able to kind of like pretty much dictate how the round goes, right? Like no matter how big they are, you know? And I can, for the most part, I can pretty much dictate how the round is going to go with a trained person. And especially when they're white belts and they don't know how to control themselves yet, I can really dictate where how it goes. If I feel like, oh, this guy's kind of spazzy, I can slow things down and I can make things safer for myself. You know what I mean? So now put that out on the street when someone's really like a white belt, let's call it.
Yep.
Like, I think I'll be able to at least figure out how to, like, the thing is, it's like manipulating their bodies, right? I know I'm trained in manipulating people's bodies into doing like what I need them to do so that I can get an edge. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I can figure out how to get to an untrained person's back if they're trying to attack me. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I don't know. I am saying this with the confidence of my training, but again, I don't know how I would actually react, but I feel like I would react pretty like.
Yeah. And I think that's the closest that we'll ever get to an actual situation like that.
I think so too.
I think that's good enough, you know?
I think
unless you're really like, you think you're going to get into like a crazy situation every day that you're training on. But no, that's a great point.
And I tell those guys, those big guys that like ask me, you really think with someone my size, I to tease them, you know, I'm like, oh, I do better with bigger guys. I have a harder time with the little ones, you know, like I just to like tease them and stuff, you know, but it's fun.
That's another light bulb moment. What you just said is it's all about like manipulating the body. Mm-hmm. That's a great one, I think, because that kind of just reminds me of like stand up too, right? Yeah. Not even jiu-jitsu, say like Muay Thai or MMA striking, whatever, is that a lot of people, like when I did used to teach Muay Thai in San Diego, like a lot of military vets and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And also here, the ones that have learned the basics, fucking great for them. You know what I mean? That's a lot of progress, and they know how to move their hip.
Absolutely.
They know like how to kick, swing their arm, frame off to protect themselves. There's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
And what you just said right there, like manipulating bodies, that's one thing that people don't think about, positioning, right? Range distance.
Yeah.
And that's the aspect that will take you to a whole nother level. That's what people don't know, even if they've been doing it for the 3-6 months, hell, even a year. Some people don't get that for 2 years. To be able to manipulate the body. Say in the Muay Thai clinch, a lot of people don't know how to posture, right? Posturing. If you told someone that's been training for like 3-4 months, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, posturing, what do you mean in wrestling? Like you're trying to get them off base.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to sweep them, getting them off base. Like that's a great point.
Yeah.
You know, just certain aspects of the game, what separates you from.
Especially like when you go with the higher belts and Jerry, Shane, you know, like, have you ever rolled with them? You're like, oh my God, I'm like doing good. And then somehow they're like somewhere else and you're like, what the heck just happened? You know, like that's, you know, literally it, you know, they're manipulating you into doing something they want you to do so that they can get an edge, right? Like
10 steps ahead.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like training is definitely important for that as well. You know, like I think that understanding how the body works in that sense, or how like the push pull kind of in those like moments, whether it's controlled in training or so for sport, or whether it's for self-defense, understanding how that works too, I think is such an edge for just safety and, you know, like, and getting yourself in a better, at the end of the day, a better position, whether it's sport or safety, you know, like it's just getting yourself in a better position. Have you heard of that? Did you hear that story? I think it was a UFC fighter who got attacked. I think it was in Brazil. Someone was trying to steal her purse.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Yes.
And she she messed him up.
She almost killed the guy.
I think she messed him up so bad that when she called the cops, he tried to put charges on her.
That's great.
And I was like, what? That's crazy, right? But like, I mean, she just knew what to do.
Yeah.
Just some girl.
Yeah.
You know, just some girl that the wrong girl that you happen to choose.
Speaking of which, and it's crazy because, like I said in the beginning, that's why it's like a privilege to talk to you. But look, there's not a lot of women that could do that. And let alone when women train, the coordination aspect of it, right? So if we want to talk about women doing it, you guys are like in the top 1%, like 0.9999%. If you really think about it, right? I mean, forget all the women that just train in general, like that go to, like I love kickboxing gyms, or even have a sense of like self-defense maybe. And there's nothing wrong with this, obviously. You know, maybe it's a mom that goes three days a week and stuff like that. But then to be able to have that coordination and actually fight, that's a whole different level. That's like I said, it puts you into like the 0.998% of
for sure
people in the world, right? Like
again, I think, and like you said earlier, I think it's just knowing that you have that, even if it is at the end of the day, even if it is a false sense of confidence and it gives you that confidence and now your demeanor's higher, at least that keeps them away, right? They're probably going to be like, yeah, she's probably not going to be one to,
like,
fuck with. And then I was like walking one day. I think I went to the bathroom and I was walking back and I don't know, maybe he told me this because he's my husband, but Vince goes, you're such a tiny person, but you have such a big aura. Like you have such a big, demeanor. I was like, oh, really? I was like, thank you. And he was like, yeah, like, I just feel like, and I think it's kind of also like he just sees me and he knows me obviously because he's my husband. But, even something as small as that, like, you know, having a big aura kind of scares people away. It intimidates guys, right? Like the strong woman, the confidence, it intimidates men, you know, like.
Yeah, you're 100%. There's another one. There's another light bulb moment because like with you, right? What I notice is that you're really, really kind. Like you're very personable as far as like, you know, when you first, absolutely. Like it's true. You know, when we're rolling, you're like, hey, what's up? It's not the like boss bitch kind of thing. It's not kind of like walking around and being like, yo, what's up? Like
you're going with me next.
It's like, yo, come here. It's like, dude, come on, man. Got like a chain around my neck. Okay. But it's more of that like, oh, she's really, really genuinely kind in like a confident way. So she must have something. It's kind of like a reverse psychology kind of thing, right? Because oftentimes like people will take, some people will take your like kindness for weakness, but then there's another level to that where it's like, you know that they train, but they're also kind because that's what makes them kind because they train. It's like,
and a lot of people do. A lot of people do take my kindness for weakness. Right. Especially when I was younger, you know, and I think when I was younger, my kindness was a little bit of weakness because I would be like, oh, I just don't want to step on anyone's toes. And
you want people to like us.
And of course, I still don't want to step on anyone's toes. But at the same time, if you're stepping on my toes, I'm going to let you know.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people, I think people see it at the gym a lot it's funny with men. I'm so like quick to say something to a man. But like, you know, if someone's being crazy and like spazzy, I'll be like, dude, relax, you know, like just calm down, you know, and then they'll be like, oh, sorry. I didn't mean to, you know, do that or whatever. And I'm like, it's okay. Just relax, dude. You know, like it's okay. Or there was one time where someone didn't want to roll with me, but he ended up rolling with me. And I even tried to be like, you know, his attitude was just bad the entire roll. And then I tried to be like, oh, thanks for rolling with me. Because I get it. I'm smaller. You know, maybe it's not like the best roll for you. But I was like, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And then he was just like, you know, just kind of, you know, whatever. So I go, dude, next time just say no. And then he like looked at me. Like, but I was like, that's the thing. You're not going to just like think that you can just get away with bad attitudes and stuff just because I'm a nice person, you know? But I think that also goes with that confidence again of like, oh, people don't want to mess with someone who's like clearly confident you know, even regardless of how nice they are or anything like that. Like, you know, like, of course I'm going to be a good person and a nice person. And
I think now, you know, and not that like not that I'm like a pro or anything. I'm just obvious, honestly. But it's just like,
love that.
I think that training now for years, right? Then this goes for like me and you. I think in some sort of way, we do have a responsibility now though. It's kind of like if a new person comes in, regardless of like what they say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How bad their attitude is. I think we've reached the point, and that's not to say like we're the baddest motherfuckers.
Yeah,
but I think we've reached the point to where it's kind of like, oh, we're trying to do this shit. We know like the social cues.
Right.
We have a responsibility to take care of.
I think we're the examples.
Right.
And I think that's why like Jerry and even John is so big on gym culture. And I think it starts with the people that have been there. And, you know, we've been at Syndicate for so long, and we've been under Jerry and we've been under John for so long that we kind of understand what they're looking for. And I think like the culture is never going to be, the environment's never going to be what it should be if the examples aren't there, right?
Yes.
So like it starts with us, like being kind to people, you know, rolling with the younger belts that don't know how to roll, or, you know, this or that. But then also calling out the people that are kind of being like assholes a little bit, you know, like saying like, dude, that's not okay. Don't do that, you know, like.
Yeah. And it's funny because, you know, when you call them out, it's genuine.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just calling them out just to call them out. It's kind of like,
Trust
hey,
me,
bro.
if it's not a big deal, I think that's another thing. A lot of times if it's not a big deal, I'm like, yeah, they're just having a bad day, whatever. And they're like, and sometimes I've been told like, oh, she's just naive, or, oh, she's just too nice, or like, you know, I'm like, no, it's just not worth my time. But if it's gonna, not only if it's gonna affect me also, but if it's gonna affect me and other people, then we got to fix that, you know, like, just kind of trying to be, I guess, a leader in the an example.
Yeah. And that will probably just naturally come out of you, because if you think about it, like in the grand scheme of things, that doesn't usually happen, right?
Yeah.
It's like very rare.
Yeah. It's so rare. That's
And if it's that rare, I'm sure it's ticking a lot of people off. It's not just like a one-off, like, it's not like almost one of those high school scenarios where it's like, oh, you're just picking on that person because you think they're weak. I'm sure that their behaviors and their like actions, it's just within them to piss a lot of people off, because they're just like that as a human.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I even heard Emily saying in when she was talking to you, saying like, dude, if someone's bothering you, like, let me know too, so that I can take care of it. And it's so true, because like Emily also knows she's one of the higher ones, one of the examples, one of the OGs of the gym, you know, that like if you're too nervous or too scared to say something, like, let us do it for you, kind of thing, you know, like, because we will protect that culture, you know, because we've worked hard to build it, you know, like, and I say we, it was like John and Jerry and all those coaches. It started with them, but I think it took us following that to build it, you know, and
there's a lot of, I mean, look, there's a lot of like unspoken kind of games that we play, meaning that, again, going back to like evolutionary psychology, there's like a lot of hierarchies, right? There's like unspoken hierarchies in the gym, but we know it's there. Yeah. Right. The people that's been there for a while, like they kind of gain their merits. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's not like all of a sudden, like, you know who's cool, you know who's been there for a while, you know who's well respected, you know who the coach is. Like there's this thing where it's like, and you kind of know your place as well. Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, yeah. So I think that has a big part to do with it. Like you were talking about with Emily, absolutely. She has the right to. She's been there for a while. She's been training for a while. Yeah. She's very, very kind, you know, when you take
exactly. So, and I think that says a lot too, like when people are nice, good people, and you know that about them, then them being upset with you isn't coming from just nowhere, you know, it's coming from a genuine, like, I guess, concern, you know, so, for a reason, you know what I mean? And people say that a lot about me. They're like, oh, if Shino's upset, there's probably a reason why she's upset. You know, Vince always tells me that, you know, like,
for sure. I mean, with like, I think at the gym in particular, there's a lot of good, that's like what you were talking about. It does start from top down, right? It's kind of like working at a regular job. If your boss is an asshole, then it's going to set the whole culture. Exactly. Right? And then that's why most people quit. Is because of the whoever's running the show, right? So it just trickles down from there. So, man, this was a lot of nuggets. Like this was a lot of aha moments for me, which
great.
is great.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, and that's why I love doing these podcasts,
Yeah.
right? And you just get nuggets like from just people that you talk to. But before we land the plane, quote unquote, general, I like to ask these stupid general questions, but what would you give in particular to a woman's practical advice if they ever want to start, like, just say a self-defense class?
Like what advice would I give them if they wanted to, but they kind of were like nervous
They're on the fence about it, yeah.
I would just say, honestly, do it. Rip off the Band-Aid. There's never going to be a perfect moment for it. And there's never going to be like that ideal situation, you know? But I mean, maybe if anything, grab a couple friends, grab a couple girlfriends, you know, go together.
That's a great idea. That's great advice.
Like, I think that,
squat up.
Yeah, squat up. And then, one of the girls came with her mom, you know, a lot of the, moms kind of came together. The gym moms kind of came together. They're, oh, you're doing it too. So yeah, it's a community, you know, like if you are nervous to start by yourself, maybe grab a couple friends and do it together. But at the end of the day, just rip off that Band-Aid and go for it. Because I mean, if not today, when?
Yeah.
Like, as corny as it is, if not today, when are you going to do it? And it's always better to know sooner how and get ahead of what you could learn rather than obviously later when it could be too late.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we have a lot of women, not we, but like, I mean, I've heard of a lot of women starting their journey in martial arts after an incident happened because they're like, oh my God, this happened to me and now I want to learn self-defense.
Yeah.
And that's sad, you know, it's like
that trauma set
in. Like do it after or do it before, do it now, you know, like do it before it could potentially happens, you know, because it could happen
absolutely.
I mean, we never know, you know, like, so yeah, just peel off the Band-Aid, find a gym. And I know that's going to be the hardest part, but find a gym that you feel comfortable with. And I really do. And I don't say this because it's my gym, but I really do think that Syndicate has a great environment to start your journey, whether you end up staying there or not. Like, I think they have a great environment to start. It's so comfortable. Everybody's so sweet. All the experienced ladies are so sweet and they're so helpful. And yeah, I think you just got to get in there and jump in the deep end, just do it.
100%. Yeah, just I'll second that. We've been training there for a while, you longer obviously, but that I can vouch for that. We have the best coaches there. I would say, especially, you know, our jiu-jitsu coach. You know, I've had coaches that here. Danny Garcia has been here, and yeah, they're Dom. You know, they're just all wonderful people, and we treat people very, very kind over there. They treat people very, very kind.
They become your friends.
Yeah, they become your friends, and it's just a community, like we were saying.
Yeah.
But Shino, I want to thank you, man. This has been a great podcast. We're going to do a little clip of like a takedown that I'm gonna put out, so that you know, get the women's self-defense class, get them motivated to learn some practical self-defense. So thank you for coming on, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let's go.